lesson to be worth doing.
만하다 소스, howtostudykorean.com.
Below is a list of vocabularies to be used in this lesson. Nouns.
전문가,
Means specialist.
벌레,
Means bug insect.
들판,
Means field.
원리,
Means principal fundamentals.
초승달,
Means crescent moon.
보름달,
Means full moon.
원두,
Means coffee beans.
코코아,
Means cocoa.
카페인,
Means caffeine.
해바라기,
Means sunflower.
타조,
Means ostrich.
정신력,
Means willpower mental strength.
묘지,
Means cemetery.
피난민,
Means refugee.
청바지,
Means jeans.
방세,
Means rent for a room.
바퀴벌레,
Means cockroach. Verbs.
내쉬다,
Means exhale.
고문하다,
Means torture.
맛보다,
Means taste.
주저하다,
Means hesitate.
야영하다,
Means camping camp.
사격하다,
Means shoot fire a gun.
이별하다,
Means part from farewell parting.
피난하다,
Means evacuate. Passive verbs.
쥐가 나다,
Means to have a cramp.
애,
Adverbs and other words.
보름,
Means 15 days half a month.
평,
Means Korean measurement. Introduction. In this lesson, you will learn how to use the grammatical principle
만하다,
to indicate that something is worth doing or possible. In doing so, you will see how these types of sentences can also be expressed using the word.
가치,
Let's get started. To be worth doing.
만하다,
The grammar within
만하다,
is very similar to that of,
는 척하다,
which you learned in lesson 98, in both
만하다,
and
는 척하다,
the. You can see that the
는 것,
principle is being used to allow the preceding clause to describe,
만하다,
in the form of,
을,
and,
척하다,
in the form of,
는,
respectively. As you know, most of the time, the thing that immediately follows something like this a noun. For example,
저는 동생이 사과를 가져오는 것을 원해요. 저는 내일 갈 수 없어요. 저는 하고 싶은 말이 있어요. 저는 스키를 할 줄 알아요.
however,
만하다,
along with,
척하다,
doesn't act like this. Instead, there is no noun in the clause preceding,
을,
is describing,
만하다,
which is adjective. You should specifically remember that it is an adjective, and not a verb, so you know how to conjugate it, and also for something else that I will point out later. Okay, as always, I like to give you my grammar notes about a particular grammatical principle, but you don't need to concern yourself too much with that. Let's look at the basic structure of how this can be used by looking at a simple example.
할 만하다,
The construction above would translate to something like to be worth doing. The thing is though, what we have essentially created is an adjective. Remember I said that
만하다,
was an adjective that can describe things to say they are worth something. Therefore, this form, as an adjective, is often used to describe a noun. For example,
그것은 할 만하다,
that is worth doing. Notice what is happening here. The noun of that thing is being described by the entire construction of.
할 만하다,
Let's look at some other example.
그 밥은 먹을 만해요.
That food is worth eating.
그 책은 읽을 만해요.
That book is worth reading.
그 컴퓨터는 살 만해요.
That computer is worth buying.
그 사람은 믿을 만해요.
That person is worth trusting.
코코아는 맛볼 만해요.
Cacao is worth tasting. The grammatical principle
보다,
from lesson 32 is often used with these verbs to add the feeling of to try attempt. For example,
그 밥은 먹어볼 만해요.
that food is worth eating, worth trying.
그 책은 읽어볼 만해요.
That book is worth reading, worth trying to read. In this form, with or without,
보다,
it is rare to find an object being used before the verb. Think about this for a minute. If you look at this structure, left parenthesis,
그 밥은 먹을 만해요.
the food, plus, is worth eating. What noun could you possibly add to this sentence? It doesn't make sense. A lot of Korean learners assume that because a verb is being used that it is better to include the noun as an object in the sentence. For example, instead of writing this,
이 책은 읽을 만하다.
they write,
이 책을 읽을 만하다.
I know,
읽다.
is a verb, I also know,
책.
is a noun. However, you have to remember that the entire construction of verb plus
을 만하다.
acts as sort of descriptive clause that describes the noun as a subject, and the noun is not being acted on by the verb. It is possible to include a noun before the verb in these cases, but typically only done when the verb is
받다.
in these cases, we still have a descriptive clause describing a subject, but the descriptive clause simply gets longer and more complex with the use of the object, using the construction, subject, plus, noun, plus.
받을 만하다.
We create the meaning of, subject, deserves is worthy of receiving, noun, for example,
그 선생님은 상을 받을 만해요.
that teacher deserves an award.
그 의사는 많은 사람의 목숨을 살려서 칭찬을 많이 받을 만해요.
That doctor deserves a lot of praise for saving a lot of people's lives, because she saved a lot of people's lives.
우리 할아버지는 한국 전쟁에서 싸우셨으므로 존경을 받을 만해요.
Our grandfather deserves a lot of respect for fighting in the Korean War. Another time you might see a noun included before the verb in these situations is if the verb is
하다.
and the noun could actually be attached to
하다.
to form a verb. For example, there is no difference between these two sentences.
한국어는 공부할 만하다. 한국어는 공부를 할 만하다.
This isn't incredibly important, but I hear
을 만하다.
used as a question every weekend when I eat with my girlfriend's parents, so I wanted to make sure that I specifically mentioned it. I'm sure you could have figured out how this is done without me showing it to you, but here we go. I hear this all the time.
밥은 먹을 만해.
Is the food worth eating? The direct translation above might be more accurately translated to is the food good, or does the food taste alright?
한국은 살 만해요.
Is it worth living in Korea?
운전은 할 만해요.
Was it worth driving? This is more likely to have another meaning which is talked about later in the lesson. Full stop. Full stop. More complicated.
을 만하다.
Sentences. It's also possible to now use an entire clause ending in
만하다.
to describe an upcoming noun. Remember, it's an adjective, so it can do this. When this is done, notice that the structure of the sentence changes. Now you are not describing an upcoming noun in this form. Left square bracket.
먹을 만한 식당을 알아요.
Do you know, worthwhile place to eat? Here, contrary to the structure of the sentence that we studied earlier, a noun could be added. For example, left curly bracket.
밥을 먹을 만한 식당을 알아요.
Do you know, worthwhile place to eat, rice?
밥을 먹을 만한 식당을 알아요.
Do you know a good, worthwhile place to eat rice?
책을 읽을 만한 데를 알아요.
Do you know a good place to read a book? Other examples of this form being used with or without that extra noun.
수다를 떨 만한 장소가 많아요.
There are many places worth chatting at.
살 만한 청바지가 있어요.
There are jeans that I want to buy. There are jeans that would be worthwhile buying. Oftentimes people use
을 만하다.
to express that something is possible despite maybe not being the best option. It's hard to separate these two usages, one expressing that something is worthwhile and the other expressing that something is possible, because they often feel similar in a sentence. For example,
한국 요리는 할 만해요.
is it worth cooking Korean food? This sort of sounds awkward expressed this way, as I can't think of an example where somebody would want to say this. Instead, it could have the meaning of
한국 요리는 할 만해요.
it is still possible. Are you able to cook Korean food? The usage translation is often interchangeable. I looked at many examples of this possibility usage in the dictionary, and my brain was still telling me that those usages were talking about something being worthwhile. Here is a good example from a magazine that I saw where the usage of possibility can be distinguished quite distinctly from the usage of worthwhile.
세계에는 모든 사람들이 충분히 먹을 만한 식량이 있지만 8억 명 이상은 항상 배가 고파요.
In the world, even though there is enough food for it to be possible for everybody to eat, 800 million people are always hungry. Another example, from before, I showed you this sentence.
운전은 할 만해요?
Depending on the situation, this could have the nuance of is it worth driving or is it possible for you to drive? Can you drive? Are you able to drive? I specifically say nuance because, as I said, it is very difficult for me. Consider this another meaning usage, using
가치.
to express a similar meaning to.
을 만하다.
The noun
가치.
means value, worth, and can be used quite simply to express that meaning. For example,
그 그림은 높은 가치가 있어요.
that picture has a high value.
청소년들이 노동의 가치를 배워야 돼요.
Young people should learn the value of physical labor.
아이들은 밥을 건강하게 먹는 것에 대한 가치를 몰라요.
Children don't know the value of eating healthy, because it has this meaning.
가치.
Can be used to form essentially the same meaning as sentences with.
만하다.
But instead of being a grammatical principle, it is just a noun that can be used as any other noun. For example,
그 영화를 3시간 동안 볼 가치가 있었어요.
it was worth watching that movie for 3 hours.
이 커피가 5,000원을 내고 마실 가치가 있을까요?
Do you think this coffee is worth the price of paying 5,000 won? 5.
년 동안 노력해서 변호사가 될 가치가 있었어요.
It was worth it for me to work hard for 5 years and become a lawyer. A lot of times, you will see
을 만하다.
used with
가치.
in the same sentence. For example,
외국어를 배울 만한 가치가 있어요.
it is worth learning a foreign language.
해외에서 한 번이라도 살아볼 만한 가치가 있어요.
It is worth trying attempting living in a foreign country at least once. That's it for this lesson. For more info, please visit howtostudiokorean.com.